I wrote out this script a couple months ago, but considering I didn't put the last book I finished reading on currently reading on Goodreads, and I haven't put this one on currently reading either, and I just started today, for the sole reason that I don't want to have over 20 books on my currently reading shelf, it's probably time I give you this video. Yes, I said 20. It's technically 21. And here's the thing, I fully intend to finish all 20 of those books. What happens is I check out too many books and then due dates creep up on me before I finish said books, so I have to check them out again, but then other books are due before those are due, so I start new books, and it's just a vicious cycle that just keeps growing my currently reading list, and I'm working on not doing that anymore. We'll see how it goes. If by next month I'm still reading 20 books, and most of them are the same books that I'm reading right now, you're allowed to slap me. Maybe I shouldn't. Let's not condone violence, Amber, especially against yourself. Even when I'm not as swamped as I am, it's not unusual for me to be in the middle of 12 to 15 books. I've been in the middle of 12 to 15 books. Not all the same books. It's a cycle. But I've been in the middle of 12 to 15 books at a time for, I'd say, over a year. And that's part of why I have there's a distinct difference for me between reading and actively reading. Because if I'm reading a book, that means, oh yeah, I got halfway through and got distracted by other books, but I do still intend to finish that book. That is a book I am reading. A book I am actively reading is, well, like this. A book that I spend time every day reading until I finish it. Actively read books, it's generally 2 to 4, which is still a lot for, most people. On the list of reading but not currently reading would be books that aren't due for a couple months. And when I say a couple months, I mean I'm planning on renewing them once their due date comes up, because that's a thing you can do at the library. Or books I own, because if I own a book, it sadly slips in the priority reading list, even if I'm super interested in it, just because I don't have a due date for it. Among the books that I own that I haven't touched in quite some time would be that right there, Les Mis. I've already read this book, and it's something that it's more of a, I want, ridiculously exact details about 19th century France mood read. It's a tell me about Parisian slang in the 19th century, please, Hugo. Yeah, 19th century. June Rebellion was in the 1800s. It's another fun fact for you. Les Mis, not about the French Revolution. It's about the June Rebellion, which was a different thing. France was really chaotic for a good while there. Now, one of the few rules I have about active reads is that they have. One of the few rules I have about active reads is that they can't be too similar of books. I broke this rule a couple months back when I actually wrote this script. Wow, I wrote this script in May. It's now September. It really has been a long time since I've done anything with sitting down videos. Goodness. I broke this rule because when I was actively reading a book called The Hazelwood and a book called The Cruel Prince. Both awesome, dark fairy tale-esque books, and if that sounds like your aesthetic, I can recommend both of them. And they were different, but there were enough similarities that to this day, there are details that I'm not entirely sure which book they belong to. The Hazelwood is set in the real world, and it's about a girl who has spent her entire life moving, and she hasn't known why until fairly early in the book she discovers that fairyland, for lack of a better word, I think in the book they call it the hinterland, is chasing her and her mother for reasons that become apparent as the book goes on, so I'm not going to tell you what they are. The Cruel Prince is about a human girl who gets kidnapped along with her half-sister and younger sister by her half-sister's fae father. She and her sisters are all raised in fairyland as, you know, a human who have far fewer powers than fairies, so she grew up constantly in fear and gets wrapped up in all kinds of fairy political intrigue because, fun fact, humans can lie, fairies can't. And there are a lot of fairies who are bitter about that. Very different stories get told in those books, but they have the same aesthetic, and they were both told from the first person perspective, and they were both about dark fairies. The dark fae. Is that weird that I tend to refer to them as fairies when it's more like the Disney concept, and fae when it's more like original Brothers Grimm type material? I'm not sure why I do that, unless it's just linguistically we're kind of trained to think of fae as more serious than fairies because of Disney. This definitely is off topic. The potential for me getting two things mixed up that shouldn't be mixed up isn't necessarily limited to books, though. At some point, my brain lost the ability to keep Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses separated from Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond, I think? Don't quote me on that if I'm wrong. Whenever I hear either song, I consistently sing the wrong words, which honestly is kind of fun. And far lower stakes than, you know, getting characters from books mixed up. Am I the only person who just ends up in the middle of way too many books? Are my prioritizing skills just that poor? Do I really need to fix that? Yes, I do. And I'm trying. I'm a book addict. What can I say? It was nice talking here again. I need to do this more, and hopefully I'll get more ideas that are more, hopefully more interesting than this. I mean, hopefully you didn't find it boring. There's just a lot of hope in my heart, and someone is walking around over my head. If you liked this video, had any thoughts about your particular reading habits, if you have strange ones, if you think mine are strange, let me know. Other than that, thanks for listening to me talk about book, guys. Bye.